Hey, it's BrogiNaric back in with another review. In this video, we're going to be talking about Jordan Peele's latest film, Nope, which is the director's third film and was on my list for one of my most anticipated films of 2022. And after having seen it, I want to say I liked it. I definitely liked it. This is going to be a spoiler review, but early on, I'm going to kind of give sort of non-spoilers in my grade, and then I'm going to get into spoilers further on. If you just want to go to the spoilers, there'll be a timestamp in the description. And before we get into it, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Still growing, and we could use your help. Get Out was Jordan Peele's first film. Absolutely great film. I love that film. I own the film. I had a great time. It felt like it was a weird comedy sketch, but it was very serious. And it was also a lot of commentary on race relations and interracial couples and a lot of different things. Then he did Us. I liked Us. I still liked it. I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters, but I remember the ending and the reveal of the tethers and all that was what broke it down for me. But the horror vibes were really good in that film. The suspense and the acting was really good in that film. But it had less of a commentary around it, or at least what we thought, because Jordan Peele was like, nah, there wasn't that much commentary in it. So Jordan Peele has kind of been put in this box where like everything he's going to do is going to have some sort of commentary, or satirism about it. And this film doesn't really have that either. I think it has it less than the previous two films. In terms of like necessarily a political standpoint, it definitely has some things it's kind of saying about film and Hollywood and stuff like that. And I guess to a degree, maybe some animal rights stuff, but it's not really like a super big, heady political thing. It's definitely more of a straightforward sort of adventure western type of deal. It's not really a horror film. There's some suspense in it, but it's not really horror or spooky. And the way this movie was marketed, it was definitely marketed that way, but that's not what this film is. So I'm going to give a quick synopsis of the movie Nope. It focuses on these two siblings, OJ and Emerald, who their father was this rancher. He trained horses. The brother trains horses, and Emerald kind of does her own thing. But one day, through a freak accident, the dad ends up dying, and now the family has to come back together to try to figure out what to do with the business. One night they discover that there's something in the sky. They suspect it's this weird alien, and they come up with the idea to try to capture it on film so they can sell the film and make money off of that. And that's kind of the movie is them trying to capture this alien on film, and how this thing is kind of messing with them, and how they are they going to succeed, or do they survive, and all of that. That's essentially the film. And then there's a bunch of other shit that's in there that's kind of like a bit unnecessary, because the story is very straightforward, but it's kind of bogged down with a lot of somewhat backstory, but then like it's backstory on certain people that aren't, like it's backstory on a side character as opposed to backstory on the main characters, who are kind of pretty underdeveloped, and it's a lot going on. So that's essentially the synopsis of the film. I want to say I did like it. I didn't hate it. I do think this is, if I had to rank, I would go Get Out, Us, then Nope. Nope is very well directed. The cinematography is good. The soundtrack is good. The acting is good. The cast is really good. It's just, I think the story itself is kind of and then the plot is interesting, but then the road to get there is a bit windy, and it focuses a lot on other stuff that's not that important. Like they play into the themes of the film, but not necessarily the forward progression of the story. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird because like a lot of technical stuff is really good. The cinematography, the certain suspenses. Some of the jokes are good. Some of the jokes are not that good. It's really a mixed bag. But with all that being said, if I were to give Nope a grade, a C+ or a 6.5 out of 10. It's a very okay film. Kind of okay. It's not the worst. It's not the greatest, even though it's very good on a technical standpoint. But the story is kind of is okay. It's an okay film. So yeah, C+, 6.5 out of 10. Go into it knowing that it's not a horror film, it's not super scary, it's not very suspense. I mean, the crowd, that's one of the things about watching a Jordan Peele film, is if you watch it with a good crowd, because he can get the people into the film. And like I said, he's already has this sort of thought this sort of persona of being this sort of creepy guy with his, or not creepy guy, but this sort of persona of doing thought-provoking, scary films. So the crowd is going to be willing to ride with you. I don't know how long this vibe is going to last. Like if his next film is as sort of middle of the road as this one, I think he might lose a lot of his hype. But Jordan Peele, I think, is a very good director. He's a very good producer. There's a lot of things that he's been producing that I've been enjoying. I think him as a writer, he's not a bad writer, but I think his story structure could be a little tighter or focus. He seems to focus on certain things that are not as important as the main story itself, or at least that's how I feel with this film. So I would love to see him direct a movie where he's producing and directing, but maybe not writing the script. Maybe work with a different script writer. I'm not saying he shouldn't write. He's a capable writer, but I think he should either maybe not change his style, but let's work with different writers. I don't know. Now I'm gonna get into spoilers of the film. So the film, if I'm not mistaken, it opens up where you're in this sort of weird thing. It seems like it's like the inside of like a bouncy castle. That's what it reminded me of. And then it shows, I think it shows the footage of the black guy on a horse, which is a whole historical thing. Like the first sequential film was a 2-second clip of a black man on a horse. That black man is this family's great descendant. And we see Daniel Kaluuya's character OJ and Keith David's character OJ Sr. They're on this farm training a horse. They got this job they got to do for some project in Hollywood, and out of nowhere there's like a freak accident that happens where some stuff is falling out of the sky, and one of those fragments hits Keith David's character, and he ends up dying. And we find out that it was a quarter. The quarter had fell out of the sky at like a rapid speed, hit him in the eye, and launched into his fucking brain, and he ends up dying. And it was kind of weird because there was like stuff was falling out of the sky, and OJ, Daniel Kaluuya's character, doesn't really react to it. Cause like usually if there's like hail and you hear it, you can hear like random pieces of metal falling out of the sky. You're gonna react. And it wasn't like it wasn't hitting him. Somehow he didn't get hit, but the dad got hit. And the horse got hit too. He got a key launched into its fucking back, like a random house key. And you're like, okay, that's weird. Like, what is that about? That was part of the opening. The other part of the opening was we see this fucking chimp. It's like Dawn of the Apes, Planet of the Apes or whatever. You see this chimp on a set going crazy and beating the shit out of someone, and you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, it literally is just like, what the fuck is this? Like, there's a chimp on a set. People are screaming, then it goes quiet, and then there's this random chimp and it's covered in blood, beating the shit out of this person. And it's like, what the fuck is this? Then it goes into the Keith David thing. We got OJ, who's played by Daniel Kaluuya. He's good in this film, but his character is very reserved and very, not necessarily one note, but he's very stern, he's very reserved, low energy. And then he contrasts with Keke Palmer's character, Emerald, who's his sister, who's very energetic and very lively and very sort of over the top, but also very charismatic. And it was kind of, I wasn't feeling it at the beginning, and I think it's just because his energy was so low and her energy was so high, and I was kind of like trying to get a balance of where's the chemistry, because they've been estranged for a little bit. He's been trying to hold down the family business. She's been trying to do her own thing. It's been 6 months later since the dad died. They're trying to do this job for this movie with the horse. It doesn't work out. They scare the horse and they end up losing the job. And I think this is another commentary on Jordan Peele is doing with filmmaking, where it's like they had a real horse, it didn't work out, and so now they just bring in you can see in the background, they're bringing in a CGI horse. He sells the horse to Stephen Young's character, who plays this guy named Rick Jupe Park, and he was this child actor who was on this sitcom in the 90s, and he was in these child western films, and he owns this sort of western theme park sort of road stop thing. And Daniel Kaluuya's been selling the horses to him, we find out, as a way to make up for the money. Then we go into this whole thing where the sister knows about the show, and he's got this whole secret room where he's got all this memorabilia, and he mentions the thing about the monkey. He was on the set. So apparently the monkey is tied into it was a sitcom. There was a day when the monkey was on set and it lost its shit and it went wild, and he's kind of reminiscing about it, but he's being positive, but it's also like a dark memory, and we find out more about it, and it's kind of like, okay, is this connected to the aliens? I thought this was about aliens. So the movie goes on. They're hanging out at the house. He's been selling the horses. He's trying to get the horse. He's like, hopefully he can get the horses back once he makes enough money, because he doesn't want to sell the dad's horses. And it's kind of it's dragging. Like the early part of this film really drags. They go back. They're hanging out. One of the horses, Ghost, runs out. Just out of nowhere, just breaks out of its pen and goes apeshit. So OJ goes after it, and the power starts to go out at the house. With the music's playing real loud, the power goes out. There's something in the sky. OJ the horse runs past them, and I think the thing out of the ship or whatever comes out. It absorbs the horse Ghost. And that's when he's like, holy shit, there's something out there. He tells the sister, so she comes up with the idea, like, hey, we should record this, get it on camera. So they go to this electronics store. Luckily, the guy that's ringing them up, Angel, played by Brandon Piero, he's a good character. Luckily for them, he's this weird alien conspiracy guy, so he helps them, and he knows technology too, so he helps them set up this very elaborate camera system at their ranch. And he also is like, hey, if you're looking for aliens, you should do this, you should do that. So luckily he gives them the what to do and all of that. After they get the cameras, Keke Palmer steals this horse statue from Stephen Yeun's amusement park. She borrows it because they're neighbors, because their ranch is here, and then like over the little hill and ridge down the road is where the little amusement park is, the old time amusement park. So they steal this statue of the horse because they know the ships are attracted to horses. The next night, one of the barns, the power is going crazy or whatever, so OJ goes to check it out. And this was one of the few moments that was like, in terms of suspense, was creepy. The crowd was really into this scene. It's the scene where it's shot very low, but you can see there's something in the darkness is moving. And it's these two short little sort of big-headed things that look like aliens, and they're creeping up on him, and he like backs away. He's like, nope, I'm not dealing with this. He starts to record it. They're coming towards him. He walks up a little closer, and then another one comes up right beside him, and he punches it in the face. But then you find out that they're not actually aliens. They're Stephen Yeun's 3 kids dressed up like aliens, pranking them for stealing the horse. And it was kind of creepy. Like I wasn't scared, but I was like something was finally, sort of happening. And I'm like, oh, okay, they was playing around and shit. And it reminded me of The Wiz. I don't know if you ever seen The Wiz, but there's that moment early on in The Wiz where all the people like stuck in the walls and they come out of the walls and they're like graffiti people. I don't know why it made me thought of that, but it did, because they were like kind of coming out of the shadows. You could barely see them. But anyway, they run away, and then the alien really finally comes, and it flies over and makes a mess, and it absorbs one of the stone horse. But then you can see it, and it's got the flag hanging out of it. It's not too close to the house, so the cameras are still working, but she can't see anything because there's a fucking praying mantis in front of the lens. The brother gets away, but then he realizes, being that close to the ship, he realizes it's not a ship. And luckily, Angel was like hacked into the system, so he was still watching them. And they look back at the footage, and they realizes that there's this cloud. It's just sitting there. Like all the other clouds are moving, but it's this one cloud that's just sitting there. And the brother realizes, like, that cloud, I didn't realize it until I looked at the footage, but I've probably been looking at that same cloud for the past 6 months, back when their dad died. Then we cut to Stephen Yeun's character, get to this flashback, and we see what exactly happened on the set. Because when he was telling Keke Palmer and Danny Kaluuya about it, he was like, oh yeah, it was a weird moment, but animals, sometimes they can be hard to control, and you don't want to frighten them, and da-da-da. This long dialogue about this fucking memory. Then we actually see the memory, and we see him as a little kid on the set. He's like, I guess he's like an adopted Asian. It's kind of like Different Strokes, but like with an Asian kid as opposed to a black kid or whatever. So, and they have a monkey as like a pet or whatever. So in the show, they were giving this monkey presents. It was him. It was the lady that played the mom, the guy that played the dad, and this younger girl who was supposed to be like his slightly older sister. And there was a whole thing where they had this box, and there was all these balloons, and the balloons came out, and the monkey was on set, but then one of the balloons popped, and the pop just set the monkey off, it was a chimp, set the chimp off, and the chimp just goes ape shit on the set, wrecking shit, It attacks the girl that was his younger co-star and beats the shit out of this woman. Beats her ass, beat her ass like she stole something. And like the kid, you see it from the perspective of the young kid. He's hiding under the table, and there's like the tablecloth is kind of covering him, but he can see through the tablecloth. You know what that's like. And the chimp is just beating the shit out of her. The more she makes noise, the more it beats the shit out of her. The dude that was the dad, he runs out, he gets attacked, and like this goes on for like a good 10. I don't think it was 15 minutes. It might have been 15 minutes, but it goes on for a while to the point where I'm just like, all right, what does this have to do with the aliens? Like, is this monkey possessed? Is the chimp possessed by the aliens? Like, what are we doing here? So the chimp is going crazy. It stops. It attacks the dude. It stops. Attacks the girl again. Then it stops. And then it notices that Stephen Young is under the table, and it slowly crawls over to him. And they mentioned like they invented the fist bump. I don't know, it's 96, but they invented the fist bump. The fist bump boom like that. So the monkey sees him and the chimp sees him, and they go to do the fist bump. And then after, either before or right as they do the fist bump, the chimp is shot in the head. And it was a shocking scene, but it was also like, what the fuck does this have to do with anything? And I guess it's making a commentary on like being cruel, like something about animal cruelty. I don't know, or you can't control wild animals because they're unpredictable. You shouldn't try to tame wild animals or something. I don't know, but it also didn't make sense because it's like, was there no animal handler? Like, wouldn't there, especially in the 90s, wouldn't there be somebody on set with like a tranquilizer if there's a fucking chimpanzee on set? Like, by that point, we all should have known that chimpanzees are very dangerous animals. So why is there not, like, someone with a tranquilizer on set? They had to wait, like, 15 or so minutes for someone to run in with a gun to shoot it in the head. I don't know. It was weird. So that happens. And then Stephen Young goes out to do his performance. And there's, like, a small crowd of people there. And he has the horse that he bought from OJ, Lucky, is in this box, and he's like, hey, we're gonna do this little performance, but we have some aliens in the area. You want to see some aliens? Yeah, there's some aliens. They come by, they visit us every so often around this time, and we're gonna do this demonstration, but you can't record it or anything like that. No, flash photography or nothing. They've been watching us, and they come through every so often. So come on, watch the aliens, and they're gonna be here in an hour, but it's not an hour. It pops up on them, and he realized like, oh, this is a little bit earlier than what it normally comes in. So the alien swoops in, and instead of absorbing, it tries to like pull in the horse, or at least that's what he wants it to do. He's going to give them a horse, because that's what he's been doing for. We find out he's been doing this for the past 6 months. He's been giving this alien horses, or giving these aliens horses, so we think. But the horse doesn't leave the box, and the alien ends up absorbing everybody in the area. The kids, the family, like everybody that was sitting around, all the workers, they all get absorbed inside this alien. And this is the moment when I realized what was actually going on. So we get a shot of the people, what is like inside of the thing, which we've seen some of the insides where it kind of looks like this weird, like I said, like a bouncy house. Like you ever, when you're on a bouncy house and you're kind of laying down and you see all the bounciness stuff around you, that's what it looks like on the inside. And you hear the people screaming, and then that's when I'm like, oh, wait a second, it's not a ship. Like he said, it's a creature, and it's eating people, and that's absorbing, and that's the people inside of its stomach. I'm like, oh, it's an animal. It's not actually a ship. It's an animal. Then this is when the movie is like, oh, it's Jaws. It kind of turns into Jaws at this point, where there's this crazy creature hunting them down, and they're trying to capture it, or, well, not capture it, they're at least trying to get it on footage. But they're also trying to survive this fucking thing. Dave Kaluuya comes in at the last minute. I forget what it was. Something triggered him, and he's like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to go get my horse back. Lucky's the only one that's still there because the horse is named Lucky. As soon as he gets there, the creature knows that he's there, so the creature's coming back to try to get him. He gets away, but he gets knocked out because when it absorbs people, there's like a lot of wind and like a suction thing, and it like blows him, and he hits his head, so he gets knocked out for a while. So while that's going on, the creature goes back to the house because they know that the creature's pissed because when it ate the stone horse, it seems like it really can't process certain inorganic items like metals and certain plastics, which is hence why when it was spitting out the stuff early on 6 months ago and the coin fell out and it killed the dad. So the monster is pissed off and it goes back to their house and it causes this storm. Somehow it causes a storm and it unleashes all this like blood and I couldn't tell if it's like throwing up or was it like shitting on the house, but it's like all this other waste that it can't process, it spits out on their house and bathes the house in like in red basically. Daniel Kaluuya, OJ, wakes up and he's trying to drive back to the house, but he can't because storm is happening, and then the closer you get to the creature, you know, electricity doesn't work, so he's stuck in the car waiting. Once the creature leaves for a little bit, they sneak out of the house and they leave. They try to call back this director that was on the set back early in the film when they was trying to do the job. They call him because they feel like he could be the right person to properly capture this creature on film. And conveniently for them, this director is a weirdo. He's very gung-ho, and he also is obsessed with capturing animal footage. Like, he's watched all this footage of animals, like not just the beautiful footage, but like the footage of animals fighting and attacking and just being in their natural primal state. And he's obsessed with that stuff. So they try to contact him. He doesn't believe them. But after this mysterious group of 40 people ends up missing, and they're in the area, he starts to realize, like, okay, they might be on to something. The thrill of a lifetime. So he's like, you know what? I guess I'll help you guys out. And that actor was really good. I knew I recognized him for something. He was the bad guy in The Crow. I knew his voice sounded familiar. So yeah, he was the bad guy in The Crow, and he was pretty good. So they leave the house. They're trying to figure out what the fuck to do. And this one with OJ, it's like he realizes like it's not a creature, it's not a ship, it's a creature. And, you know, I'm a horse trainer. I know how to deal with animals. There's certain rules. Don't look, you know, animals in the eye because they think you're trying to compete against them. You know, don't make certain loud noises and stuff like that. So he realizes if you don't look directly at it, it's not going to necessarily come after you. So they come up with this plan. He thinks it up, but they come up with this plan to try to capture it and draw it out. And the director, like I said, he's very gung-ho, he's very old school, and he comes with this old school camera that you actually have to crank. It doesn't rely on power, so he keep recording and all of that. Keke Palmer steals all these wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tubesmen to try to kind of pet out a grid so they can have various things that are powered by electricity to kind of let them get an idea of how close or what direction the creature is coming from. And they steal all these car batteries and they set up this very elaborate grid and all of that. They're on the rigs, they're gonna record. The brother is wearing he's got his bright orange hoodie and he's gonna ride on the horse, and he's got the horse with the blinders on it so it can't, you know, make accidental eye contact or whatever. They come up with this elaborate plan. They're gonna record it. It's a bright sunny day. They're waiting to pull the thing out, and then this random asshole on a motorcycle pops up in this like silver motorcycle helmet, and he's obsessed with recording, trying to get him out of there because they don't want, you know, unwanted people there. And apparently he's either working for TMZ or he's just a paparazzi guy. But he's there. He's very annoying. And I guess this is just Jordan Peele making fun commentary about annoying TMZ people or annoying paparazzi people and people who are obsessed with everything having to be on camera. Because anyway, he's being weird and he's like, there's something weird going on here. You want to tell them about it on camera? And they're like, man, let's get out of here. He's like, no, fuck it. I want to figure out what's going on around here. He's on an electric motorcycle. He drives off down this road. And they're like, well, fuck, what's going to happen when an electric motorcycle meets a fucking magnetic field that's going to shut it down? So you see the guy driving, then boom, he just flies off the motorcycle because the motorcycle stops and he ends up wrecking himself. He's like a wounded lamb in a friggin' alligator pit or whatever. OJ rides over there because he's going to try to save him, but it's too little too late, and the guy is kind of being an asshole, and he's like, oh, my leg is broken, but where's my camera? Can you get my camera? Record me. Why are you not recording me? This is so awesome. You need to record this. And they're like, dude, we don't have time for this. You got to go. He's like, no, don't save me. I got to get this on camera. But then OJ leaves because it's like, it's too late. The creature's there. And that dude gets sucked up. And OJ's riding away from him. They're capturing it on camera, but then they gotta replace the footage and all of that. So the guy's cranking it and he's recording it on camera. The regular cameras aren't working, but like the creature is like fucking with them and trying to eat them, and they're finding, running away and all of this stuff. And then out of nowhere, the old guy, the cameraman, he's like, I don't know, he mumbles something. I knew exactly what he was gonna do, but he's basically like, hey, this is the thrill of a lifetime, and I gotta risk it all. So he goes up the mountain and he's recording it, and I think he did something. Anyway, he basically he allows himself to get eaten because he's weird. So he's eaten. Keke Palmer almost gets eaten up, and then there's a whole thing where the creature starts to transform. Because at first we see it, and I think this might be a problem for people too. For me, it was kind of So the creature is like this, sort of, it looks like a flying saucer, but it's more like a stingray, where it's like very wide, the mouth is at the bottom, and it kind of it moves on its own. It's like a stingray, but then it kind of transforms, and it's like a weird sort of jellyfish type deal, and then it turns into like this weird sort of floaty fish thing, but it also looks like a giant weird parachute pinata thing that's kind of just floating in the sky. It's not that threatening. It's not that creepy. It's an okay visual, I guess, but it kind of looks like it's a certain type of fish that I can't think of right now, but it kind of looks like an elaborate version of a fish / floaty pinata parachute thing. And it's losing its shit because it's pissed off. OJ's like, he's gonna be the bait so she can get away. He's got to draw it out away far enough from the motorcycle so it can cut back on. So once it cuts back on, she wants him to follow her, but he's like, nah, you got to get out of here. But they kind of do this and they come up with a plan. So she rides away on the motorcycle while the brother is trying to distract it. She gets on the motorcycle, she drives back to the amusement park, and they established this thing earlier. I've never seen one of these before, but it's this weird weld thing that's got like a camera at the bottom of it, but you have to put coins in it, you have to crank it in order for it to take the photos. And it shoots straight up. So I don't know how, but she came up with this idea where she's like, all right, there's a lot of coins around. I'm going to use these coins and I'm going to cause a distraction because there was this big balloon at the amusement park. So she unhooks the balloon and the balloon starts flying in the sky. She knows a big object like that is going to attract the creature. So the balloon is floating in the sky, and she's right. The creature starts to be attracted to it. So, and it's way in the sky, like a couple thousand feet in the air. So the balloon is up in the air. The creature is coming towards it, and as it's getting closer, she's putting in the coins into the thing, and she's cranking it, and she's taking photos. It's like a photo here, a photo there, and then once it's like right over the shot, the alien comes in, and it's doing this weird thing where its mouth is like this weird sort of square box thing that keeps tessellating out like it's his mouth. It's not really intimidating. It was a weird design, but eventually it launches out and it grabs the balloon and absorbs the balloon. And when it does that, that's when she gets the shot. So she has a photo of the alien and it absorbs the balloon. The alien is floating away and then it explodes because the helium or whatever didn't react with it. So the balloon explodes inside of it, which causes it to explode. And then there's just like this big tarp looking thing floating in the sky. And she's crying and she's like, yeah, motherfucker, don't mess with Haywood, bitch, and da-da-da. You know, they survive. And then as she's hanging out there, the police are starting to pull up. So this is like a whole crime scene, which I thought was weird that it was 40 people are missing. This whole place is a crime scene, but it wasn't really that secure. Like there was no one there until after the fact. But anyway, so they're pulling up and the photos are there. She's starting to cry, and then she looks over, and then through all the smoke that was around them, she can see her brother sitting on top of the horse. He survived, and then that's the end of the movie. And it's like, all right, it's like, okay, that's the movie. And I'm like, huh. I was like, Did we need the chimp scene? Did we need the, like, I get the whole him messing with the animal. He's got some weird obsession with animals, but he also wants to still kind of be famous thing, I guess. That could have been better. Instead of wasting time on that, we could have learned more about the siblings. What was the other thing? There was the thing with the lady in the trailer, when you see the lady with the messed up teeth. That's the co-star that got her ass whooped by the chimp when they were kids, and he's been like taking care of her or watching out for her ever since. Which I figured out that was the case once I realized what scene we were at, and I was like, oh, that's the scene in the trailer when they look up, and I'm like, oh, the lady with the fucked up face is the lady that got her ass beat by the monkey, and that's by the chimp, and that's exactly what it was. But yeah, it's like Jaws, you know, it's man versus nature. Which, you know, cool, but I don't know. This movie wasn't all that. It was kind of like, all right, I get it, you know. Like I said, I definitely like Us more than this. I thought Lupita Nyong'o's performance in that whole movie was better than all the performances in this film. And none of the performances were bad, but I was more engrossed, more curious, more enticed by that movie than I was this movie. Even though the ending to that film, like the revelation of the tethers, I think is fucking ridiculous. But it was still a little more engaging than what this film was. Because there was literal moments where I'm sitting in the theater, especially early on, and I was just like, bro, when are we gonna fucking get to it? Like, they're dragging this shit out. Like, them buying the cameras, them talking about the family and the horses, and I'm like, bro, can we fucking get to this shit? Like, I get pacing, but it felt like it was dragging a little too much for me. This is not a terrible film. I can see this being one of those films that might get more respect as time goes on, but right now I'm kind of like on it. I think a lot of people are just kind of on it. I don't know what the budget was for this. I don't know if, hopefully it can make money. Like, hopefully this won't be one of those passion projects that don't make money for the studio, and then his next film is going to have a super low budget because his previous film didn't do that well. Hopefully that's not the case, because I would want for him to still be respected as a director. But like I said, this wasn't really it. I can't say I was disappointed, because I deliberately, especially after Us, I deliberately went into this film with no expectations. So I was like, I'm here for the ride, and the ride was kind of boring and kind of But I did enjoy Daniel Kaluuya's performance, even though he was this very, you know, reserved, mild-mannered guy. And then Keke Palmer's performance, which she was very energetic. Like I said, as it went on, their dynamic balanced out a lot more, especially when, like, Angel's there and they're joking around with him and all of that. So it worked for the most part, but it's still not hitting on all cylinders, I should say. But those are my thoughts on Nope. Let me know what you thought about the film in the comments. Once again, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more videos. All right, peace.